Welcome everybody to this sit down. On today's episode, Mr. Wouter Snyman. Now, for those of you who maybe have been living under a rock for the past 20, 30 years, I'm going to try my very best to introduce him and do you justice, sir. I'm surprised that I can sit in my chair. I'm so excited to interview you. 8 times in a row, financial firm winner. 8 times in a row. 8 times in a row. So if you defend your title twice, you're a true champion. We had an off-camera discussion, and I don't know what your status is with 8 times in a row. 17 books. So an author of 17 books. 3 of the books are on the best sellers list, the best books on Amazon. 3 of them. The voted father of a daughter and a son, a loving husband. Your temperature, I always speak of a temperature in a certain field of a human being. In finance, your temperature is extremely high. It's clear. As a leader, it's extremely high. In my opinion, after spending some time with you, your temperature in your faith is one of the highest that I've ever felt. It's beautiful. For those of you that didn't know, 5,000 words per minute that you can read. I don't know how that's possible. We're going to hopefully be able to see that just now. And 80% retention on the 5,000 words. We are honored to have you on our show. Thank you very much for coming here. I'm so excited.
Thank you very much. It is absolutely my pleasure. It's wonderful to be part of your series, and thank you very much for the invite.
You are so welcome, sir. And guys, girls, boys, ladies, we are going to have so much value in the next couple of minutes. I hope you enjoy it as much as we will. Thank you. So, sir, you've achieved success on so many levels of your life. As a leader, you lead with empathy, with passion, with drive, with accountability. That's evident. That's how you get to number 8 in a row. But how does a person get to the human being, the phenomenal human being that's sitting in front of me? If I have to say, snap of a finger, the 18-year-old version of Mr. Wouter walks in. Like if you close your eyes and you could put yourself in that state, what are you thinking about? What's your priorities? Who are you at 17?
Yeah, I think it's, I was a little bit confused. I think like most 17-year-old boys.
I think all 17-year-old boys.
I thought I was a true leader, but then I understood that the average norm of a classroom wasn't 17 people with 7 boys. So you still had to prove yourself in future.
Okay.
I was part of a loving family.
Beautiful.
We had my mom was divorced when I was 13, and that had a devastating impact on us. But I had such a wonderful mom. She was and still is my mentor. And I had a stepdad that stepped in like no real father could. And
Wow.
that to me was an example of the human being I wanted to be.
Wow.
That was passionate, and I was passionate. I lived life to the fullest. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew it was something in business. I always had this passion for entrepreneurship, selling stuff and trying to do something with it. So I knew it was going to be in business. But there were no clear-cut career guidance, which I think today's youth has got a massive advantage. I mean, the
Agreed.
ability to watch YouTube channels like yourselves and almost get an education for free, which was
Agree.
unheard of then.
Absolutely.
I was a passionate reader. My mom would always say, you've got to focus on school and all these kind of things. And but I mean, I just loved reading. I think I was way back then the number 1 reader in town, and it was proved by the fact that I could only take out 9 books a week.
Wow.
That the limit was 3, so I pushed it to 9. I had a
9
special
books
membership
a week.
Yeah, I'm trying to read less, but I mean it started at a young age.
So some people are trying to read more. You're trying to read less.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
I've joined Books Anonymous. It's not working well for me now, but yeah, we'll get there. And I think ultimately, I mean, the environment that I grew up in small town, challenged you to do. There's probably a lot more than what you would do in big towns.
Agree.
You needed to play rugby and be part of Volksspelen and all these kind of things, and I loved it. I mean, that was part of who I was, but I was still confused. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do.
So what I'm getting is hardship, the divorce. Obviously that at a very young age, 14 years old, mixed emotions, you're confused, you don't know why. Then all of a sudden the stepfather walks in and embraces you. You were very lucky to have that.
Yeah.
Embraces you as no real father could. That's amazing. That's is he still alive?
Unfortunately not, but his legacy lives on.
Beautiful. So I mean, well done to have such an impact on a young boy at 14 to be able to help you guide, or rather guide you to achieve your goal in reading and learning and improving yourself. It's amazing. So hardship, however, devoted to learning, devoted to knowledge and growing. Beautiful story.
Absolutely.
So how do you end up in the financial industry? How does that small town young man end up, leading teams for what is not probably, at Discovery. You started your career at Discovery, one of the biggest financial firms in the country, before you opened your own and just went for it. How does that happen?
Yeah, it's actually, the story relates to when my folks were divorced at the age of 13. My mom was a hairdresser, passionate, wonderful hairdresser. She was the local psychologist.
Of course,
I mean, if
every
you wanted,
hairdresser is.
absolutely.
Yes.
And I learned a lot from her about passion, but unfortunately, the average hairdresser way back when, most probably, and a lot of business owners that practice a skill, but most probably don't understand business to that extent, didn't have a lot of knowledge about finances.
Agreed.
To the extent that when my folks divorced, I had to kind of take ownership of this, and I vividly remember one of my first interactions with finance was to go talk to a bank manager.
At what age?
13.
At 13. What are you saying to a bank manager at 13?
Not much. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions because I didn't understand. My mom couldn't explain things to me. Now way back when, this was in the 80s, the bank manager and the priest and the schoolmaster, those guys were revered. You couldn't just walk into his office.
100%.
So his PA was an excellent gatekeeper. I had to find out when she took her lunch to go slip past and go have a sit down with him. And one of the first questions was, I want to understand our finance a little bit better. We've got a home loan. I want to understand how it works. And one of the questions I asked was, okay, how does it work? And he said, well, you're paying it off over 20 years. And I said, why? And he said, sommer. Because. Which was a kind of a challenge because, I really didn't understand anything about it. And I started delving into the questions. I could see he really couldn't answer me. And my passion for that started way back at that young, early age, which I'm very thankful for. And I followed it through life. And the sad thing now today, many moons later, if you ask individuals how their home loan works, the chances are they wouldn't know.
Yeah.
We have a massive lack of education, specifically in finances. And that drives most probably the current state of financial well-being, not just in South Africa but around the world, and I'm in a very, very lucky and privileged position to be able to share some of that with people.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Amazing. At 13 years old, to have the self-awareness that I don't understand this. It's clearly important. It's where we live. I need to understand how this works. My mom can't explain it to me. Well, who can? The bank manager. Okay, he also can't explain it to me, so I'm going to go and find this stuff out for my own. At 13 years old, I was like eating sand and kicking rocks at 13 years old. That was going on in my mind.
I was doing that as well. But
as your side hustle, you were interested in finance.
Yeah.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you very much. That made me think like, geez, where were you? You run the best sales team when it comes to your industry. want to ask you a three-part question. This is my question.
Yeah.
It's not the team's question. It's my question.
Sure.
So we've got a sales force of about 70 people, and we bring in through a cadetship program.
Okay.
Every quarter we take between 12 and 18 youngsters.
Sure.
Some of them, most of them haven't finished matric, come from a very rough background, put them through the cadetship program, and we try our level best to teach them a skill, and we've got great success. Our best salespeople are the cadet graduates.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, if you take a person just starting out, what makes that person successful? That's first part of my question. Second part is, now that person's got a bit of experience. Doesn't matter. I mean, our channel gets viewed from all over the world in multiple industries. Second part is, now you've got a person that's got a little bit of experience, knows the industry, maybe spent 6, 12, 18 months. What makes him successful at that stage? And as a leader, what makes a sales driver or sales leader successful?
Yeah.
In your opinion?
Yeah, it's a tough question, and thanks for asking it. But and the reason why it's tough is that as human beings we differ so vastly. So I suppose there's some cornerstone areas that individuals need to focus on. And the first is an understanding of the resources that you've got available. A lot of people, and even in South Africa, we might say that I haven't achieved this or I can't achieve that. I mean, what you mentioned in terms of your cadetship program, taking in interns that hasn't even got a matric.
Yeah.
Now I've realized that you know what, education is a privilege, and that's why we need to do a lot to make sure that we get people educated. But it shouldn't necessarily be formal. Agreed. Education comes in various forms.
Self-education is very powerful.
I mean, so formal education gives you a job. Self-education gives you a career.
Formal education gives you a job. Self-education
gives you a
career. I think for the viewers there, just pause, rewind 10 seconds and write that down.
Yeah.
That's very important.
That's one of the best lessons I've learned, is that irrespective of the fact that I did a good couple of finance degrees, from a financial perspective, I mean, the biggest lessons I learned was from the School of Hard Knocks. So I think for someone that starts out, the first thing is that your background has got absolutely no reference to the future that holds for you.
Beautiful. Love it.
Irrespective of where you come from, you have the ability to be successful.
Absolutely.
So you've got to ask yourself a question with conviction. Do I have potential? And the good thing is that the answer has to be yes. Whether this is in your faith, your family, your finances, your future.
Or all of the above.
It's irrelevant. You and I, as human beings, if we're still alive, we have potential. So it doesn't matter where you are right now. Like a very good GPS in terms of determining where you want to be in the future, you've got to understand what your vision is. And maybe it sounds like a lofty idea, but Simon Sinek wrote a wonderful book, Start With Why. So what's your why in life? I found my why quite early in terms of finance, but it wasn't just finance. It was general business, but it was also people, because I realized that irrespective of what business you're in, it's going to be about people. So if you understand your potential, that you have that, the second thing is you need to understand people, irrespective whether you are an introvert or it's got nothing to do with your personality traits, your brain profiling, things that I've been really interested in my past, because it kind of gets you an idea of how people think. We'll maybe talk a little bit about a book that we wrote specifically around that.
Yes, please.
One of the shortcomings that I believe in our industry is understanding ourselves. But by understanding yourself, you'll be able to understand people.
I want to dive into that if you don't mind.
No, absolutely.
So over the years, I've discovered 4 areas drive people. Only 4, in my opinion.
Yes.
I would love to share and
Sure.
get your point of view. Number 1 is advancement. So whenever I see someone walk into my office or into the training academy, advancement. So that's the person that enjoys the conversation of when you follow this path, you can become a manager. After a manager, you can become a sales manager. After sales manager, a branch manager. You know, the niece doing this, I can see, oh, you're excited.
Yeah.
So that's the one area. Number two, lifestyle.
Yeah.
Sales, I don't need to tell you that. You can teach me
Yeah.
a lot more than I could ever. But my point of view, lifestyle. So you've got the guys, the youngsters with a bit of swag, and like, do you like, I see you've got a nice watch. Do you enjoy a nice watch? Oh yes, a Tag is my favorite watch. Okay, lifestyle guy. So I can drive you with money. I can drive you with lifestyle.
Yeah.
If you sell X amount of cars in X amount of time, this is the financial reward. That's how I drive a lifestyle person. The third is madness, competition.
Yeah.
Me, like, you can't throw money at me and expect me to perform. If you tell me, Bobby, the guys down the road have sold 12 more cars than you this month, I will drink 18 Red Bulls and not sleep for 2 weeks. Don't do that. That's bad advice, but that's it, the fire in me. I want to go and wage war.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which I already, when you walked in, I placed you in the last one. It's legacy. I think at the point of legacy, you want to leave a great financial background and a great financial future for your grandchildren, not only your children.
Yeah.
And I think I place you right there at legacy. So that's my understanding of driving people. It's.
I think you summed it up absolutely perfectly. It's and there's not one right or wrong answer. Ultimately, is what's your answer. And I think in terms of different levels of success, to me, success right at the start of my career was to be climbing this corporate ladder, which I did. But I also did that at the expense of, I thought, wealth creation and building wealth and getting nice titles, and obviously working for international companies would give me that success. And to a degree, it did.
It did, yes.
The one thing that I'm very thankful about that, and I mean it was it was a faith-based journey that I realized to an extent that I was building assets, but I was neglecting the biggest asset in my life, which is my family.
Absolutely agree.
You can't replace it. You can replace money. You can make more money.
Absolutely.
I mean, anyone can do that.
Agree.
Irrespective of the environment that we live in, that's one thing we can do.
Fully agree.
It's most probably the simplest thing that we can do, and people that watch this might differ, and hopefully we'll get into it. But I had to realize that as much as I was climbing the ladder, it was against the wrong wall. And sometimes in life,
it was against the wrong wall.
You need to make detours. It's almost like a Boeing pilot that takes off at OR Tambo, flies to Cape Town International. 95% of the time they'll be off course, but they know where they land because they've got an end destination in mind. And interrogate yourself about your end destination. It will most probably change. I mean,
agreed. That's what I wanted to ask, because in the beginning of your career, it was climbing the corporate. Advancement drove you. Advancement rather led to the lifestyle, because that comes together. It pulls the income up. Yeah. But then you are very self-aware, and boom, it hit you at a cost of my family, at a cost of time I spend with my family.
I thought my family wanted a nice house and nice cars.
They do.
I love cars, by the way. I'm a passionate
I know
petrol
your
head.
brand. I know your brand.
So for me, I thought I was doing well, and yes, I was. But the question is, at what expense? And along this journey, we need to ask ourselves that, because we've got four resources that you and I have to our. I was explaining earlier, Tony Robbins says that it's not like we don't have resources. We are not resourceful enough.
Yes.
So from a South African perspective, I mean, we are some of the most resourcable people in the world.
Agree.
We're resilient. We can tackle challenges.
Work ethic.
And we have got the best work ethic.
100% agree.
And we've got to use that to our example. So don't hide behind excuses. I mean, there's no excuses. But understand that in this journey, that time can't be replaced.
No.
You can leverage time, and I'll give you a simple example of that.
Yes, please.
And the only way to leverage time is to learn more. It's the only way to do it, whether it's formal or informal. And I prefer informal. And I think we're in the ideal position now. You can do degree and courses, certificate courses
Online.
from Harvard, Yale, Oxford, Cambridge for free online now.
For free, yes.
You've
agree.
got no excuse. So make sure that you're resourceful enough in terms of your time. The second one is energy. And energy is, I mean, if you've got zero energy, unfortunately, like one of the people I followed, Steve Jobs, you're dead.
Yeah.
So as long as you're not dead, you've got energy.
You've got
Make sure that you preserve and maintain your energy, your physical well-being. You and I have one toolkit to achieve our goals, and this is it.
Have to look after it.
Look after it. Relationships. I mean, relationships is critical. I've not met a successful person in my life that did it by himself.
Never.
You have people around you, because you and I have different skill sets. You need to realize that as soon as you can, what are you good at and what are you terrible at? I'm terrible at admin. The good news is I don't want to get better at admin.
Me too.
I've got someone that I outsourced it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the final understanding is money. And money is it's a resource that can be replenished. So sometimes we put that first. In actual fact, it should be last, because it's the result of things that you do.
Agree. It the financial part gets pulled up by your. We actually shot a beautiful piece of content last night about your capacity. So your capacity pulls your income up or down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So I agree.
Yeah.
If you focus on the money part, you'll never have.
Yeah.
You'll never have. An abundance, in my opinion.
You'll never have enough, and it's irrespective of your bank balance, because that pursuit of more is not necessarily more. And I've met some super wealthy, successful people, and they want more, because unfortunately money is not going to give them most probably that. And sure, you can't live without it. I don't believe you can, but that's the beauty of the environment that we live in. I spoke to a friend that immigrated to Australia, and because of opportunities. And I said, I think you're missing the point, because everything works in Australia. In South Africa, not everything's working, so we have an opportunity to fix things.
Real life opportunities.
We can do things, and we can make a difference. And I suppose that's why we're so privileged to be where we are.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. That was like a 20 out of 10 answer to my difficult question. Thank you very much. If you could go back in the beginning of your career and take one set of skill that you have today, that you maybe developed over time, what would that skill be? I'm very curious to know.
Yeah, so
only one.
So I suppose the one skill that I believe that's kind of the cornerstone is around relationships. And I learned a book I read that spoke about this analogy around how you build relationships. The downside is we never taught these principles at school or university, and if you think about it, most of our relationships are driven by what we can get out of it. If you can change one principle in your life, and whether this is your relationship with your spouse, your kids, your co-workers, clients, doesn't really matter, is that we've got this principle of 50-50 relationships. We think that makes 100. And the unfortunate truth is that always leaves someone asking for more. If you have the ability to learn, and this, by the way, is not simple and not easy, but you've got to endeavor that, is you've got to start believing in the principles of 100-0 relationships. How can I give 100 and expect nothing back? Now, it never works like that, because the minute that you give 100, people see that, and they would want to give you something back. Whether it's 5 or 10 or 50% is irrelevant, but it's up to you, and you and I have absolute control over that. The ability to give more than what people get back. If you're in an income, if you're in a job environment where you generate an income, always do more than what you paid, because price is what you pay and value is what you get, and value is what you deliver. Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world, talks about this principle of price versus value. And in a relationship, if you had to measure it in rands, the question is, how much are you giving? You see, if you give 100 rands worth of value and you're only asking for 10 rand, you will always be in business. You don't need to be a genius to do that. Now, and I think we are in this environment around relationships, which is the cornerstone, every business deals with people. I don't really care what kind of business you're in. Somewhere down the line, there's someone at the other end of whether it's a telephone call or the screen or on your shop floor. You deal with people, and that ability to deal better with people, it's a skill set that I don't think can be replaced by anything else.
So if anybody ever wondered how you are 8 times back-to-back winner, that's exactly how. Take everything away from you. I can take all your money away. I know this for a fact. If by some chance all your wealth gets removed, I think it will take you 6 months to build it back. If you're gonna take so long. I just by the last 4 or 5 minutes of speaking to you, I know that's true. Well done. Thank you very much. I've learned a lot. Thank you very
Just
much.
maybe something on what you said is, and that's really true for I think people that's learned skills. Because if you think about it, let's put Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, let's put the richest guy, Elon Musk, in this room, and we take away everything that they've got.
It's a question I ask every day.
You cannot remove and take away the skill set that they've built up.
The way that they process issues, it's just different. The way that if I take my best salesperson and I take a greenie, I put them in front of the classroom, and I'm the customer, and I'm just in a bad mood. That type of customer, it's my favorite customer, and I give the expert stick. I give him stick, calm, collected. He's anticipating. He's actually giving me stick in a way that, like, wow, okay, I'm sorry. I was so rude to you. Can I please buy the vehicle? Because the value exceeded the price.
Absolutely.
Where the newbie is enthusiastic, he's got energy, but he doesn't know what to say.
And some of that value is compassion.
Absolutely.
There's maybe a reason why that client walked in there and he was grumpy, and maybe there was a death in the family. Maybe we never know these things. And I mean, if we come back to kids, if you think about it, when you spoke about legacy, and right at the onset of my career, and that's most probably why I had my priorities wrong, I thought my legacy would be the wealth I leave behind, the money I leave behind, the stuff I leave behind, and that's not true, because that can be squandered. But what if it's not what you have outside of you, but what you have inside of you? Because no one can take that away. And if you can teach your kids that, is that you have wealth in you. And just by sharing that with other people, financially you'll always be sorted.
I'm not a father yet. Hopefully I'm blessed with children one day. But something I read, it blew my mind. A person's success is not measured by the success of their children. This is what it says, if you embedded values and principles that are strong enough to be seen in your grandchildren, that's a true sign of success. Because you can teach your kids rather, things that will make them successful, but on a shallow level. But if they can transfer what you teach them to their children, I'm getting goosebumps, then you're truly successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, I had a chat to my son. He's 18 years old, so he's into gadgets and all these kind of things. And
young man.
And he says to me, "No, you got a WhatsApp from the cell phone company that his cell phone is up for renewal. You can get a free upgrade." Let's just talk about this.
Beautiful
Firstly,
learning opportunity.
That's an oxymoron. There's no something like free upgrade in nothing in the world.
No, sir.
So definitely not when it comes to a cell phone. And we spoke about the principles, and eventually got to the realization that I don't need a new phone because mine's still perfectly working. I shouldn't be bombarded by this marketing messages. But when I do want a new phone, I should buy it out of my passive income, not active income.
Passive income.
Now, so that's just a small lever that shifted. But if you understand that principle, I don't have to teach you much more about finance, because that's a principle that you'll go share with individuals, and that will leave a legacy.
Agreed.
Not so much the income, but the consideration that, listen, I've got to do some work now, and whilst I work actively, I'm the asset, but I've got to replace it somewhere in the future. then I can buy anything I want. Because finances is not about not doing it, it's about how you do it. And I suppose that's what life is about.
Now, spending the last 20 minutes with you, I'm going to try and answer the question that I'm about to ask you.
Okay.
And tell me if I answered it correctly. I've never done this before.
Good.
It will be
Go
my
for it.
first attempt. What is your passion in life and your hobby? And I'm going to answer it with one word.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I love people. I think someone said to me the other day, why do you still do what you do?
Not for money.
And it's not for money, and
No.
it's not so much for recognition, although I suppose we all, as human beings, love recognition. It is this view that I have a responsibility in an exceptional way. I'm privileged to be able to share what I do with people. I love interactions like this because we get to extract so much value, and hopefully you'll get value, but I've already had value out of this session. And
I've had immense value. In the last 20 minutes, I'm going to watch this interview at least 100 times. You have my word.
The reality of it is that if we go out with this view that I can learn from everyone that I interact with,
Young or old?
irrespective of their status in life and their perceived success, I have nothing to lose. And that's the beauty about people, is that the people make our life go around. And I'm the passionate father of a daughter that's in education. She's her final years of study, and she's got this passion to share her life with disabled kids.
Wow.
But the amazing thing is, when she comes and talks to us about a kid, I have to ask her, what's the kid's disability? Because I can't judge it from the passionate way she talks about the kids that she serves. And
Wow.
and that to me is, I might look at their disability and get kind of fixated on that. She looks at something else, and I suppose that's the wonderful thing about being around people that are passionate about what they do, and it's irrespective. She's a right brain drama queen, love people, emotions up and down, and you think, sure, maybe she's going to struggle in life, but with that kind of trait, you just know that she's going to have enormous success.
That's her calling.
Yeah, and it is.
It's a calling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. If you don't mind,
Sure.
I want to dive into a topic it's been hot on everybody's lips for a long time, and I want to hear a pro's opinion.
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Is it something that you should definitely have in your portfolio? Is it something that you should not take seriously? What in Bitcoin? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
The answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to take it seriously, and not so much Bitcoin per se, even though that I think it's been validated.
Yes.
So I mean, I had a contrasting view a good couple of years ago when Bitcoin peaked at the first time, and I was really delving into this and getting an understanding. And to be honest, I didn't really understand it.
The blockchain and the effect and the potential.
So the reality is that Bitcoin is just a currency. I mean, it's the blockchain as such is going to change our lives. It's already busy doing that. So you cannot ignore it, and absolutely you can't ignore it. You have to investigate it. You've got to make sure that you start studying it to the degree, talk to people that's got a bit of an understanding, but you've got to make sure that you are involved. So from an investment strategy perspective, you always have to talk to professionals. The unfortunate thing, there's still so little known about it, but Bitcoin and stuff such as NFTs and the blockchain and these kind of things is most probably today where the internet was in the late 90s.
Agree.
So it's right at the start.
Agree.
You and I have this absolute privilege to be part of this development, and if you think about it, digital currency, we're already swiping credit cards.
100%.
How much money is on that card? I mean, it's linked to an account somewhere, and we're just doing electronic transactions, and the likes of cryptocurrencies will lead us in that way. Now, for the same token, there's a lot of them that will go nowhere because there's no validated business model. I believe the mainstream, some of the mainstream ones, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, that uses different methodologies, is critical. And if you had to ask me how much, it's really risky, and you would have seen
Yes.
in terms of volatility, because,
Huge
because
volatility.
there's not an underpin to the value as such yet. But I have no doubt that you've got to invest at least 5% of your portfolio. For someone that's not knowledgeable about it, don't do any more. Make sure you get an understanding. And
Deep understanding.
there's a verse in the Bible that talks about your heart is where your asset is. So if you start investing small amounts, you most probably will have that interest to go study about it, find out more,
and grow.
There's lots of crypto wallets and exchanges available now that you can explore a bit and get an understanding, but don't ignore it.
Don't ignore it.
It's absolutely going to form part of this new technology. Will form part of our investment future. It's no doubt about it.
Beautiful. Like you said, we're in such a privileged time. I don't think it's been easier to learn or get information about something. For example, I'm very famous for saying this. When someone comes and asks me a question regarding our field or anything, like why, for example, a C-Class Mercedes, a Blue Tech, when you open the fuel flap, there is two nozzles. So one is for diesel, and one is for the Blue Tech, the fluid, the diesel fluid that cleans the catalytic converter. So a person comes to me, but in front of the class, like, I wonder why there's two. I'm like, what should you do when you don't know something? Go and watch 10 YouTube videos on it.
Yes.
Spend 3 hours, 4 hours researching the subject, you'll be better informed. So I think that's great
you'll
advice.
most probably be better informed than 99% of other people, because they haven't done that.
It will cost you nothing except your time. It will physically cost you no money to learn.
And it's a skill set that now you can almost never forget it.
Agreed, because you took initiative and spent your own time. And it's called AdBlue, I'm sorry. So it's diesel and AdBlue fluid.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
I would like to, I always learn from people's mistakes. Like Steve Jobs built this wonderful company. We know what he did right, but like what excites me is, why did he get fired from Apple the first time? So the mistakes, I call it landmines. And I'll share a landmine. And I mean, I've worked with hundreds of salespeople and sales leaders in my life, and most of them, because of stepping on a landmine like this, I've repaired our relationships. But at a stage, a landmine I stepped onto was, as our business grew, we got to about 150 employees, 3 branches. Pressure is really high. There's a lot of things that are up to me to make a decision. Bottleneck the business, temper grew. So a landmine I stepped in is, I became, rather than proactive, I became reactive. I just, the negative energy came out of me. And unfortunately, I'm very shy to say, but that repelled a lot of great sales leaders and great people around me. So that's a landmine I stepped on earlier. I have repaired it. I've actually seeked out help. Jock Versag, he was on our show.
Okay.
He helped me. We worked through this, for weeks. And I've got a rule. Every day, I'm a leader, I'm an enabler, and I'm kind. Those are my 3 words. Yeah. I lead every situation. I enable people. I'm a tool. And I'm kind, meaning I'm going to guide you through the problem, but I've got no problem firing someone.
Sure.
If I have walked the distance with him and I see this is really not the environment for you, you should go and do something else, because it will make you happy. If you could say, you don't become 8 times in a row #1 financial advisory firm in the country. Attooh, by the way, sorry, my brain is, I'm so excited.
Go for it.
Attooh, I'm going to attempt an explanation. At 16, I got chosen for the under-21 Tuckies University soccer team. So
awesome.
My body wasn't the size it needed to be to play rugby, so I thought, I love soccer. So I played soccer, and I used to say Attooh when I scored a goal and run around, take my shirt off because I had a 6-pack then. Attooh. So it's a beautiful, beautiful name that you've chosen for your company, because you score financial goals for your customers. So that just gives me goosebumps. So in your professional career, can you maybe name one or two landmines that you've
Yeah.
stepped in that I wouldn't like to
Yeah.
step in and try and avoid, and perhaps our viewers
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah, I suppose one of the biggest landmines I stepped in was to think that I could do everything better. So I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do. I do an exceptional amount of reading, more than most people. The speed reading helps.
Yes.
But I mean, I'm continuously learning. So I get most probably 20, 30 newsletters a day from our industry perspective around the world. And I'm continuously learning. And so I know that I potentially know more than most people around the subject. But the reality is that could be the biggest landmine is that I used to divvy out tasks to individuals, and if they don't make progress enough or quick enough in terms of my expectation, I had this view, no, just give it back, I'll do it better. And the downside of that is that you get yourself so bogged down with menial tasks, and you become the bottleneck in your business.
Yes.
Even though you might have knowledge and you might actually know better. But that's not really relevant, is that what you do is you disempower individuals.
Agree.
You don't give them an opportunity to make mistakes and grow from those
Agree.
mistakes. And
Wow.
and you spoke about Steve Jobs earlier. So Steve was fired because he was really not good with people.
Yes.
He was a brilliant mind. He was a visionary thinker. He was at the absolute next level, but he couldn't empower individuals.
Agree.
And that was one of my biggest landmines, is the knowledge that as much as I might know better, it might not be the best for the business that I do it, because I've got to start upskilling individuals, give them the confidence that they can make mistakes,
Allow them to.
because you learn from your biggest mistakes, and I made a lot of those, and it actually good. I mean, our school and university environment doesn't really encourage mistakes. I mean, we get all these signs to say that, listen, don't do this and don't do that, and unfortunately, when we evaluate individuals, we tell them how many they got wrong instead of getting them an answer as how many they got right. And for me, that was one of the biggest learning curves. And I'd like to say, and it would be interested if my fellow colleagues watch this to say if I've improved. But I do believe I have. I
can see,
I
because
honestly
you're aware of
I
it.
honestly
know you
believe
have.
that individuals have got a significant amount to contribute, but you've got to give them empowerment. You've got to empower them with the choices, but more than that, you've got to empower them with the ability to fail and to make mistakes, because our biggest lessons we learn from stuff that we do wrong, not right.
So I want to touch on that. I've got a thing that I say to myself all the time. If you lose, don't lose the lesson.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're
Yeah.
in the automotive industry, and knock on wood, there's a lot of fraud that happens in our industry, and we've unfortunately bought a lot of cloned vehicles, stolen vehicles in the past, and it's always a financial loss. But I didn't lose the lesson, and in 3.5 years, I haven't bought a cloned vehicle, and we've
Amazing.
bought thousands of
Yeah.
vehicles because
Yeah.
we had a financial loss,
Yeah.
but we did not lose the lesson.
Yeah.
They will not catch us this
Yeah.
way again.
Yeah, and I
Amazing.
suppose that's how you progress fastest, because making a mistake is not necessarily a step back. It's potentially a step forward on a greater foundation.
Yes.
Because learning is exponential, and that's why I encourage individuals to make sure that you do watch channels like this. And even if there's something that you take out of it, I've read thousands of books, literally thousands of books.
I'm so jealous. In a good way.
So there's good and bad, and most of them have been bad books. But I still read them to understand that there's a golden thread.
Yeah.
I don't need to get 300 pages of worth out of a book to get the essence of the lesson I need to take out of it. And in any essence, I mean, if we interact, there are two things that we learn: how to do things and how not to do things.
Oh, wow,
So
good.
so your landmine is something that people need to be cognizant. Maybe you are guilty of something like that. Maybe you resonate with something that I said around my landmine, and you can learn from that. And now you can seek help, and you can get a better understanding as to how do I deal with that, and what's the downside. Because we always, when we make a decision, whether we buy a car or any decision in life, we only ask two questions. Why 2 and why not to.
Okay, great.
But most of us don't know about the why not to question.
Why to? Why do this? Why do this?
So why to? The book of Simon Sinek, understand your why. So I want to become one of the best salespeople in my industry. Okay, that's a wonderful why to. But why do you really want to do it? What's under that? Because is it just a badge, or is it what it gives you, or it's the money? So always ask yourself 3 whys. Why do I want to do it? The first answer. Why do I want it? Second answer. And you must probably get into the truth at the third one. Most of us don't do that. And then why not? Why haven't I got it? Or what's stopping me from doing it? The downside is most of the answers here is in our subconscious mind. We just don't know it. If you interview some of your top salespeople, they will tell you the obvious things, but what's not obvious. And it's almost that something that they do that's unconsciously competence is that they actually don't know that they do it.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes the difficult thing about learning from really great people is that they're so good at something they don't even know that they're good at it anymore because they just do it naturally.
Yeah.
And that's some of the biggest learnings we can take from it.
It's a practice skill.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
I've got 3 or 4 names that popped into my head, like objection handling with that specific person. It's like watching an Oscar awarded movie. He's just so graceful. Yeah. He walks you through this journey and you understand everything and you say yes because the value exceeds the price. Yeah. How do you do that? And he's like, what do you mean? I just do it. Yeah. Like how does your brain say, what do you sequence? What is step 1? Yeah. What is step 2? Yeah. No, it's just the way I do it. Yeah. He doesn't know how he does it.
Now, I read a wonderful story about, in actual fact, I saw an interview about Ernie Els, and I've never been a great golfer. I enjoyed it at some point in time, and then family commitments was more important than playing golf. And someone said to him, "So how do you hit a draw?" And he said, "No, it's really simple. I just think draw, and I hit a draw." And he said, "Okay, so how do you hit a fade?" And he says, "No, it's also as simple as that. I just think fade, and I hit a fade." Now you and I know, irrespective of your golf prowess, is that's not the way it happens.
No, it's not.
However, he's practiced it millions of times.
It's natural.
That by thinking about it, he automatically changes his body stance and everything else, and he does it. And if you want to become a master at something, you've got to understand that there's 5 levels that we go through. We unconsciously incompetent. We don't know that we don't know. When I was 13, I was that when I tried to drive a car. Told my mom, listen, I can drive a car because I've been watching you, and obviously as a man, I've got far better hand-eye coordination. I was unconsciously incompetent. I didn't know that I didn't know. And she said, okay, fine, you come sit here, try. I quickly became consciously incompetent.
I know that I don't know.
Now I realized, okay, I can't do this.
Wow.
I nearly broke her neck a couple of times, and she said, I'm getting out. You're going to practice a little bit. And then I became, with practice, consciously competent. I still had to think about it, change gears, and get on, the clutch, I've got to flicker on and those kind of things. But I was consciously competent. And today, driving here, sure, I didn't know exactly where I was going, so I had to follow my GPS. But I drove unconsciously. I didn't have to think about anything because you rose to that level of competence. But I'm not a Formula 1 driver, so I'm not at mastery level. I need to obviously do a lot more to get there, and I know that's a skill set I'm probably not going to get. But in life, if you want to develop anything, understand that we all start at the unconsciously incompetent level. It's not who you are, it's where you are. Yes. And it's the same with finances. I mean, at what level are you with your finances? Are you still don't know that you don't know? Okay, you'll see the results quite quickly. Maybe you in that consciously incompetent. I know that I don't know, but what do you do about it? Because changing the daily habits a little bit, getting expertise, understanding how other people that successful do it,
10 YouTube
will move
videos.
You up that, absolutely, and they'll move you up the ladder.
To consciously incompetent.
Yes.
I know that I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's everybody needs to rewind 10 minutes. You're going to do a lot of rewinding and just watch that part again. I'm really honored to have been part of this conversation. If I may, sir, what is the best advice anybody has ever given you? One single piece of advice.
For me, it was someone that was physically disabled to say to me that you able. Believe in yourself.
Wow.
You are able. Irrespective of what other people see, you able. You've got potential and you can achieve more if you do more. And for me, that was kind of coming from an environment where I didn't have a father. When my folks divorced, he literally disappeared. And I had a lot of anger inside of me and thinking it was my fault. And until someone had to point out to me that, no, it wasn't, but remember, you able. And I believe that of people. I believe we able. In South Africa, I mean, we have got such a diverse, wonderful culture and people, and irrespective of your background, you're able.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, wow. If you think you can do it, you're right. If you think that you can't do it, you're also right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but you are able.
Yeah.
You just need to think that you can, and you can go and achieve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
So just on that, I said I really believe that people are, if you put your mind to it, you can do something. And I said, okay, maybe not becoming an astronaut, until I saw William Shatner became the oldest astronaut ever at the age of 90, because technology moved to the degree that enabled him to do it.
Yeah.
So what we thought, okay, yeah, you obviously have to be young and fit and all these kind of things. I mean, he became an astronaut at the age of 90, so he can do it.
He believed that he can, and he did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I wonder what his blood pressure is, because it was always imprinted in my mind. My mom, when I was young, 120/80, you could be an astronaut. Yeah. Blood pressure is not that good anymore, especially after a hard managers meeting. I don't test it. I don't want to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you could spend a single day with one individual, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a difficult one, because there's so many that I would like to spend time. I suppose someone now that's alive most probably would be an Elon Musk. I mean, he's a weird character, but
very.
But I mean, just that ability to, if you think about his journey, where he started off, I mean, obviously we have some elements that crossed over, but in that concept where he came up with this idea of SpaceX, and people asked him, so what do you think your chances of success are? And he was very confident in saying 5%, and he still did it. So getting $160 million when he sold PayPal, and reinvesting every single cent of that into Tesla and SpaceX and his Solar City company, every single cent, so that he had to bum a bed from a friend,
and they helped him out with money to pay his rent. And he just sold the company.
So for me, I mean, as much as he's most probably not a very engaging individual, that kind of thinking just, I mean, it's so amazing to think that people are at that level. And yeah, I mean, I suppose I would have loved to meet David from the Bible to get an understanding as to the level of faith that he had, to understand that I pick up 5 little stones and I'm going to take on a giant, because most of us take on giants every single day, whether it's our family or our faith or our finances or the economy or whatever. And he had this absolute conviction to know that it wasn't about him, it was about something far greater than him. I would love to have a chat with him.
Beautiful. Yeah. If you could witness a conversation as a fly on the wall, quietly, no one knows you there, there's a room full of people. Who's in the room and what are they talking about?
Sure. Yeah, I think I'm because of my business, and although I would tend to go to business when I go on holiday. I've got these business books reading. I'm most probably the only nutcase on the beach reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad or something like that. I've tried to change.
I'm with you there, except I do the Audible. I love Audible.
Yeah, Audibles are great, and I mean that's another technology
Yes,
change.
agreed.
Unfortunately, you can never listen as fast as you can read. So,
Well,
so that's the one downside.
Okay.
So a room full of people. So I would have Steve Jobs there. I would definitely have Elon Musk there. They would differ in viewpoints massively.
Agree. Absolutely agree.
I would love to have a Warren Buffett there to understand. I mean, he started investing at the age of 11. What drove him to do that? Because I mean, he's changed people's lives in so many
100%.
ways, and his thinking. I would love a Tony Robbins there because he's an exponential teacher in a sense that, I mean, he's transgressed. Most probably one of the very few people that's gone across massive different industries, from personal development to business development to wealth creation, to now he's into transforming your body and understanding how you work. I mean, he's got a level of knowledge
He's a beast.
that I would love to tap into. So yeah, and I'll have my mom there.
Beautiful.
She's most probably one of the most inspirational people that I've ever met in my life. She was a mentor, and she was one of those individuals that cared more about people around her than she ever cared about herself. And that was something I wanted to learn from her. I'm still a long way off, but
She's
she
done a good job,
changed
sir.
people's lives tremendously. So yeah, that would be my audience.
She's done a great job. Hand on heart, she has.
Thanks,
She
Bobby.
really
I
has.
appreciate that.
Wow. You're a car guy.
Yeah.
I'm a car guy.
Yeah.
We all know what your favorite brand is. What was your first car?
So I'd only got a car when I started working.
Okay. What age?
22.
22 years
Yeah.
old.
So
Bought it yourself.
I bought it myself. It was a Nissan Langley.
Langley.
1600. That these pop-up little lights.
Yes.
And the number plate was OMF 3000.
OMF
Yeah.
3000.
It's a town I was born in. I grew up, Viljoenskroon, these Free State numbers, and it was called Umfi 3000.
Umfi.
And I loved it. I mean, I was privileged to have the car. I spent all my money on my studies and the likes, and had to finance it myself. So it was my first car. I bought it secondhand from an old lady that really looked after it
What color?
with love. It was white.
Wow.
Yeah, and I loved it. I mean, it was a beautiful car until someone wrote it off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so,
I was going
yeah.
to ask you, like, where is this car? I'm going to help you find this car.
Unfortunately, that car.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, no.
What's your dream car? If you didn't have to have the kids and the dogs and everybody in the car, what's your dream car? What when you see it, you're like, wow.
Yeah, so I'm a petrol head. So I mean, there's I love Porsche. I mean, I'm a Porsche fan. Yeah, in my very early midlife crisis, I bought myself one of these flat sports cars, and my wife's very happy that I'm through that phase of my life now. Yeah, I'm still a Porsche nut. I'll most probably, if extreme, I'll get a Cayenne GTS Turbo Coupe.
Yes,
I mean,
that's a mean
that's a
car.
beast.
That's a beast.
Yeah,
That's
a
a
beast.
beast.
I don't need it. At one stage in life, I needed it. Most probably more for other people than me.
Yeah, the ego, the confidence.
Ego, and the
yeah.
right. I don't need it now. That's a good place to be in. But it's a beautiful, beautiful car.
Agree.
Yeah.
I'm with
Yeah.
you. I'm with
I think
you.
value for money is probably in that range. One of the best.
Awesome. This is probably the most difficult question that I'll ask you, and you know, reading and we share a passion for knowledge. I fell in love with self-development about 3-4 years ago, and that's when our company exponentially grew. It took me as a leader of our company, I suppose about 11-12 years to get to 100 cars, and it took us 3 years to get to 450 cars per month.
Sure.
So and the moment I started my self-development journey, it rocketed up. And in our company, it's our culture. It's what we do. We do a book a month.
Okay.
And each and every individual writes a book review, 3 paragraphs to a page,
Brilliant.
and submits it to me.
Okay.
And myself and two girls read through each one.
Yeah.
We have a competition. First prize gets for example, last month we gave away a Harvard course to the value of
Okay.
$3,500.
Sure.
And second prize was the girl that just walked in and
Yeah.
offered us coffee a while ago. She gets a spa day for two
Brilliant.
on the house, best of everything. So
Awesome.
that we encourage reading. So I'm going to go to my difficult question,
Yeah.
and I'm nervous
Yeah.
to ask you. You're an author, award-winning author. What is your favorite book?
Now that is a difficult one.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
There's categories of books, but I suppose the one that led me on the journey of self-development and made me fall in love with books was a book called Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill. So it's a wonderful book, and it transcends across.
It's a long book.
Yeah,
It's a big book.
I read it the first time when I was 14 years old.
At 14.
At 14, I've read it every single year since.
Beautiful.
Many years I actually have read it about 3 or 4 or 5 times
Per
a
year.
and it's because I suppose the self-learning, self-development environment and industry was built on this chassis of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. You must probably chuck away most of the other books and
just do that
and
one.
read that. And it talks about concepts of, the interesting thing is, so Napoleon Hill wrote this book. He was a reporter, a news reporter, and he interviewed Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest individuals at the time, trying to understand what made him wealthy. And in this interview, Andrew gave him this task of saying, you go interview the best of the best people, and the best of the best at the time was the likes of Henry Ford and F.W. Woolworth and Rockefeller and all these amazing individuals that we still talk about 120 odd years later. So you had this privilege to meet these guys in person, and by reading the book, as you get into their mind as to what made them successful, what are the traits of very successful people. And it's a wonderful read. That's why I I would recommend it to anyone. And there's an opportunity, most probably in terms of your development journey, to use that book and say, but how do you change that book for salespeople in the motor industry? Because it's got so many powerful lessons. But if I was pushed to get one, that would most probably be it. But there's so many others in different levels that had a massive impact on my life.
What I've also learned is, if I identify weakness within myself, number one, I would go and study the top. Obviously not on Amazon because I can't read so quickly, but on Audible, I'll go and take the top 5 books on leadership, the top 5 books on finance, the top 5 books on money, and I'll just do that topic until I'm confident enough that I'm in a better position now than I was 3 weeks ago. So that's really helped me. My favorite book is Developing the Leaders Around You, by John C. Maxwell.
Sure. Yeah. So John is he's a special author. Interesting enough, John hardly ever writes those books himself. So he narrates those books, and it's a
ghostwriter.
And it's a wonderful way to do it, because and you look in all his books, he gives credit to to his ghostwriters. And the reason being is that he said one of his best skills was as a leader of people.
Absolutely.
And it comes through in his books. You can clearly understand that. So I agree. Anything by him is a wonderful read. Yeah. Absolutely. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, however, is also most probably an iconic business book. It transcends these simple habits that will have an exponential impact in your life. So Stephen Covey, wonderful book. Yeah.
Beautiful, sir.
Yeah.
If we may.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got one of the books that, when the pressure was really on last year, we had exponential growth in our company, and department by department we were failing. We were breaking the company, which is the only way to grow.
Absolutely.
Breaking for me means pushing ourselves beyond our capacity.
Yeah.
So we take a step back and say, okay, we have X amount of finance and insurance agents. They can realistically handle so many applications.
Yeah.
The applications have doubled.
Yeah.
We can't continue. Take a step back and then improve the foundation.
Yeah.
This is a book that really helped us. It's
Yeah.
Think Like a Monk
Yeah.
by Jay Shetty. If
Yeah.
you may, the
Yeah.
5,000 word
Yeah.
per minute,
Yeah.
80% recall.
Yeah.
So we have the introduction. It's 10 pages.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing how you do it?
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
Sure. So maybe just as a background, I used to joke when people said, "Okay, you're speed reading. How do you do it?" And obviously, I'm in a genius.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
How
But
else would you do it, sir?
and that's not the answer. Is that
It's not?
No, it's not. So the good news is that everyone that can read can speed read.
Okay.
There's 3 things that stops us from speed reading.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it's the way that we were taught how to read.
Okay.
And if you think about it, we were taught to vocalize.
Yes.
And most of us get stuck in that. So if I had to say what stops me from reading faster than 5,000 words, it's still the vocalization problem. And so that means you read every word, but you repeat it in your mind. So the challenge with that is then you can only read as fast as you can talk.
Agree.
So that's the biggest
Makes
hurdle
sense.
that you'll have from a speed reading perspective. It's, by the way, also the biggest challenge to overcome in starting to speed read. And I'll also give you a quick lesson there. So if you understand, that's the first reason why you can't speed read. The second reason is called regression, is that the average person reading a page would go back to words 30 times on a page. 30 times. So the average page is about 200 or 300 words, depending on the typesetting. It means you would go back 30 times. So 10% of the words you will reread, because you think that you read with your eyes, but we actually read with our minds. So our eyes are just a filter, and that's why you can read so fast. It's not restricted by your eyes. So that's regression is the second thing. There's an easy way to fix it, by the way, and I'll show you what.
Wow. Can't wait.
And the third one is that we read every word. So you never have to do that, because if you think about reading a book, it's almost like a movie script. Every movie has got a script. It's written down.
Yes.
But there's filler words that don't mean anything. So the word says maybe he gets off the chair and walks towards the door. Now in the movie, he just gets up and walk. It doesn't give sense to the story. But
Agreed.
in books, it's exactly the same. There's filler words
Agreed.
that you don't need to read to understand the essence of the book. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is get an understanding and give your brain instructions when you read. So if you read a book like Think Like a Monk, it already says, train your mind for peace and purpose every single day. So the first thing I do is ask myself, what do I want to get out of the book?
Okay.
So what are the 5 things I would like to get out of this book? Because I'm not going to get everything out of it. As much as you'll have recall around principles in the book.
Agree.
And your mind is a wonderful thing. And by the way, all of us work like this. Irrespective of your IQ, or if you can read, you can speed read. Okay, and if you can speed read, the powerful thing about recognition, or recall rather, is the fact that our brains work at 400,000 bits per second. The fastest reads, a lady reads at 160,000 words per minute. 90% recall.
90%.
90%. So the reason why she can't read faster is she can't turn a page faster. That's the only.
Wow.
That's what's up. It's proven that we could read at about 260 words per minute. So I know Think Like a Monk is going to give me an idea of around train your mind for peace and purpose every single day. So I'll get a sense of obviously what's the content of the book. The first one is let go, grow and give. Because I understand, okay, I'm going to have to let go of something, I'm going to have to grow so that I can give. Yeah. That's the essence. Then I understand that let go gives me identity. I am what I think. I spend a little bit, I don't speed read this. I give myself a little bit of a sense on understanding that, okay, it's identity, negativity, understand that fear and intention, meditation, breathing. By the way, in this book, talking about meditation, one of the most critical components that we miss in terms of slowing our brain rhythms down, and understanding things. So when you read, make sure that you read with intent, but also relaxation. And that's where it helps you asking yourself questions. Growing purpose. Okay, so from an introduction perspective, okay, so he talks a little bit about its history in terms of obviously where he spent time in terms of understanding monks and the ability for them to slow themselves, meditation, and how to get into a rhythm in terms of his understanding of himself and obviously the application of people. If I read through the book, okay, here's the powerful thing about speed reading. It's not about reading it once fast. Is at 5,000 words, so the average South African reads at about 200, 250 words per minute, maybe 300 if you're an avid reader. Because of your restrictions, you'll always be stuck around that level because we can't talk faster than 300 words a minute. So the minute that you understand that, then you can do something about it. I'll show you what to do right now. But I can read a book, if it really is an interesting book for me, in the same time that someone reads a book, I can read it 10 times.
Wow.
So the power of learning is repetition.
Okay.
And so I would read it fast the first time around. I would take some principles. I would get a highlighter. I would highlight some of the main principles for me. I would make a little bit of a note in the sidebar. I actually read some of my really interesting books with sticky notes.
Okay.
So I would sum up 10% of this book because that's the essence of it.
Agree.
Is you don't all the filler parts. It's about 50% of the book would be filler parts. You don't need that. You don't need that for an understanding. So in terms of speed reading, so the quickest way, best technique I can give you is in terms of getting started is read with your finger. And you don't need to read every word, and you don't need to read per line. So you use your finger for about 3 lines. Your eyesight can see 3 lines. In actual fact, your eyesight can see a full page.
Okay.
You can read a full page at a time. By understanding that you're taking snapshots of it and asking you questions afterwards.
Makes perfect sense.
You also don't start at the first word. You started around the third word and the third last word. And then the second stage is that you actually start reading in this way.
Okay.
And it takes practice. The more you read, the better you get at it. That's why, for me, it's kind of a simple exercise because I read a lot. On average, I read a book a day now. I really try and read less.
Wow.
And it sounds strange, but I mean, it gets overwhelming because it's not so much about how many books you read. It's about what you do with what you read.
What you take in.
And if you read a book with intent, make sure that so the last thing I do when I read books is I create mind maps. So I create the center, this book I would divvy up into 3 sections in terms of the different components, and then I'll have 5 little branches because each of them is divided up into 5 sections, and I would make sure that those are bullet points, and I'll take 3 or 4 cornerstones out of each of those sections and highlight them that references was probably a key component of the book, and that way you literally memorize the whole book.
And do you go and do you do it on a piece of paper and then fold it and put it in the book, or do you go and save it on your computer somewhere? How do you?
No, I do it. I've tried technology.
Okay.
I don't do technology from that perspective anymore. For the very simple reason is that you learn using all your senses. By writing it down and having it physically, you're using your touch, you're using your sight, you even use your smell if you think about it in terms of the ink that if you really get immersed in, and it might sound a little bit strange, but the more of your senses you involve, the more you're going to recall. So I mean, if I had to ask you, do you have a superhuman memory?
No.
You don't. Okay. So that's the average answer I'll get. But you're wrong, by the way. You've got it. Let's prove it.
I've spent time with you now. It's much better than it was an hour ago.
Let's just prove it. Can you remember vividly where you were at 9/11 when?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got a superhuman memory. If you
my
can
house.
remember 20 odd years ago,
Straight out of
one incident. So the question is, why do you remember that?
It was an impactful moment that changed the world.
Yeah, but at the time you didn't know that.
I didn't know so.
But there was a massive emotional connection to that story.
Yes.
And so the way that you improve your recall ability and your memory, by the way, is just start attaching emotions to it.
Wow.
And it's different emotions. So we've got emotions around family, we've got emotions around faith, we've got emotions around finance, we've got emotions around our future. So we attach different emotions to things. By improving your recall, and obviously trivial books, you're not going to get so intently involved. Other books you might, because it's meaningful and it means something to you, and it's got an impact in terms of your business and people around you. And that's how you improve your ability to have a super 100% recall, because we all do.
Beautiful.
Unless you've got brain damage, literally, I mean, you have 100% recall, the ability to do it. And it's this learning environment that we need to challenge ourselves with and expose ourselves to.
So it's been years, decades since I've had my mind blown. It just happened, sir. Thank you so much. That was incredible. It was amazing. I'm glad I had that experience with you. Thank you. I'm going to be practicing this straight after this interview. I promise you that. One of my mentors gives me tasks. So because I get to read a book a month and submit a review, the way that he's taught me to do it is exactly what you just said. I don't read the book. I listen to Audible.
Yeah, perfect.
At a fast speed, 1.5.
Yeah.
1.5, and I never ever do it in the car. I never do it when I'm walking around. I'm just my mind's too busy. I do it behind my laptop.
Okay.
And as I hear something that makes sense, I write it down.
Yeah.
I type it out. So a book, like a 350-page book, my book summary will be 11 pages, 11 to 15 pages.
Yeah.
And then over the years, I can go and read 20 books in one Sunday afternoon, because it's a 15-pager, 15-pager, 20-pager, 11-pager.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. It made so much sense to me. Thank you.
So part of your book reviews is if you incorporate that mind map kind of thing, you literally will sum up that book in one page.
Agree.
The 11 pages is good. That's why I put sticky notes and
because it
kind
goes
of a
deeper.
recall, and some of the best apps nowadays. Blinkist is a wonderful app that gives you this kind of synopsis. But I think the privilege that you guys have got sharing that kind of book reviews with each other is that you've got a vested interest in
around the
terms of
subject,
each other and the subject and the development, and that's how we grow. It's the only way we grow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have witnessed that. Lastly, sir, lots of entrepreneurs, lots of people that are looking for investment opportunities, looking to grow their income, looking to become financially free, and that's an area which you are an absolute master in. The figures prove it. How do they get into contact with your company?
Yeah.
What's the best way? What's the best age? Like, should I, 14 years old, contact one of your agents and say, listen, how does a home loan work? Like, what's the best age, and what's the preferred method that you would like some of our viewers to contact you and interact with you?
Yeah. No, thanks for that opportunity. I mean, that's so age-wise. Let me answer that because it's simple.
Yes, please. Sir.
The minute that you start working with money is the right age to start understanding money, and it's those simple principles that become principles for life. The sooner we learn the right principles, the easier it is to formulate our habits around that and cement it as part of who we are. I suppose that's our biggest challenge, is the fact that we're not taught these principles at school.
No, we're not.
Still not. We weren't 30, 40 odd years ago. We're still not teaching our kids that. It's a passion project of mine. It's something that we are going to take to schools actively. We have done it in the past, but this year definitely is to engage with school kids and challenge them around these principles. And I'll quickly share the 5 simple principles that you need to follow. So it's never too young to start. And the good news, you're never too old. True finance is like that Chinese proverb that says, when's the best time plant a tree 20 years ago, and the second best time today. So if you haven't started with your finance 20 years ago, the good news is you can start today.
Yes.
So you're never too old
Yes.
to start. So maybe just a quick 5 principles.
Please, sir.
You need to make sure that you spend less than what you earn. So to do that, you need to understand there's 4 components of finance: income, expenses, surplus, and assets. Your ultimate goal with your finances is to make that sure that if you earn income, spend less than what you earn so that you have a surplus to invest. That surplus is invested in savings, short term, I'm going to need my money in the next 12 months, or long term, longer than 12 months, I need to pay for my kids' education, or I want to buy another car in 5 years' time, or ultimately I want to make sure that I can retire financially well. And that surplus you invest in assets. You see, as an active income earner, you might be the asset. You generate the income. But your money can work for you, and you need to do that soundly by investing in assets that will give you a return greater than inflation somewhere in the future. Not 20% per month, because that's nonsense. You will never get that.
Too good to be true.
And if the earlier question of Bitcoin, don't ever invest in something to think you're going to get a 10% return a month. I can tell you, like my grandmom used to do, if it's too good to be true, it is. So don't believe in any of that fallacies. 100%. Warren Buffett, the best investor in the world, has generated a 22% return over the last 50 years rather. So don't think that you and I are going to be cleverer than that.
No.
But you don't need it, because investing early gives you the power of compounding.
Yes.
Compounding, as Einstein said, is the 8th wonder of the world. So by investing in assets, and those assets are not, it's not rocket science stuff. It's simple stuff that possibly you understand. If you think about it, if I love, I'm an Apple fan, so I quite like the technology. So if you buy into it, what you view around Apple, and maybe it's a good investment, and there are vehicles that you can invest nowadays. Okay. The simplest way to do it, however, is leverage off expertise. And there's lots of really clever investment managers out there. And for you and me to just simply become one of those, if it's not our day-to-day job. No. So rather leave the expert stuff to the experts. And there's a simple concept called model portfolios. So understanding who you are, where you are in life, and how much time you've got, and where you want to go to. One of these portfolios are structured exactly for that. You don't have to nitpick individual stocks, because you and I might not know exactly what's happening. Where are they in the industry cycle? There's a whole host of challenges, and that's what we help individuals with. So we're passionate about that. For us, it's about making sure we have a definite impact in terms of the financial well-being of any South African, but specifically average South Africans out there. They just want to know more. So a lot of these books, I don't sell most of them, because I ideally give them away at seed in the ground for me.
Yes, sir.
That's to try and make an impact for people. Cool. And they can contact us via our website. It's simple, www.attooh.co.za, and that Attooh is A-T-T-O-O-H.
We'll make
it's
sure
not tattoo, it's Attooh.
Attooh, we scored a financial goal.
Yeah, that's it. And there's a contact list, and we will definitely get in contact them if they want to get one of the free books that I wrote around the subject. I mean, they're welcome to pop me an email, wouter@attooh.co.za, and we'll make sure they get digital copies of these.
That's amazing.
Books.
Amazing. Yeah. Sir, thank you so much. I think the last few minutes have been a growing experience for me. Just being in proximity of you makes me more confident in my craft. I've learned so much. We have been blessed to have an absolute master in his field, and in multiple fields. It's not only one field. Your faith, your family, your look about learning, your passion to serve people, your passion to grow people. Absolutely amazing. It's been an honor. Thank you so much for your time, and all the best going forward, sir.
Thank you. The honor was mine. It really was wonderful to chat and engage with you. And yeah, I mean, this was a learning experience as well. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. You're a master at what you do.
Thank you very much.
The ability to extract information, which is it's been a privilege to be a part of.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, appreciate it.